Good afternoon. So I'll be taking you through data privacy and open banking presentation by myself representing Credit Bank. So thank you for this honor, and I'm glad to be in Dar es Salaam. So before I start, I need to be able to tell us what Credit Bank stands for, who we are, and what do we do in the digital space. And one of the things that we do, our vision is basically to be the most respected financial institution in our target market. And also our mission is to transform the financial industry landscape through innovative and relevant financial solutions, which one of them is what we'll be discussing today in terms of open banking and how we've been able to achieve that and what are the best practices. Our values are on teamwork, innovation, execution, good corporate governance, integrity, excellence, and accountability. So that's basically about us. And we can go to the next slide just to tell you more about where we are in Kenya, in terms of our locations. That is in Nairobi, Kenya. And we relocated to in 2020, and this was just because of an increase in the human resources and what we've been doing. We are a niche bank to SMEs and MSMEs. So currently we have 45,000, predominantly having them as SMEs and MSMEs. And one of the other key issues is on our core banking. We currently use Temenos, that is T24. And we have over 200 staff, 43% being female, and 57% being male. And currently we have around 10,200 shareholders, which we have micro shareholders, individual shareholders, and also we have institutional shareholders as well. As we just keep on speaking on, I want to highlight on the aspect of the 45,000 customers on the MSMEs. So you'll find that we are not really on the retail aspect, but what we do is try to leverage on partnerships. And one of the things that we've done in terms of leveraging on partnerships is also we've implemented the Open API platform. So the Open API platform, which we'll be partly speaking about in terms of the data privacy, is our take on how do we enhance our partnerships with partners, especially with fintechs, with PSPs, and with other big corporates. So by us actually providing, okay. So one of the things that we have done is that with the Open API platform, we enable fintechs to actually tap to our ecosystem. So basically what we offer as a bank, you find that we have payment solutions. We have the RTGSs, we have the TTs, we have the B2Cs, we have IPRS checks. So all of those things that are actually privy to traditional banks, we can be able to offer the same to fintechs. And what does this do? This actually enables the fintechs to offer more personalized services to their customers. So what we have done is try to leverage on that and tap into the retail market indirectly. And that is one of the things that open banking actually provides. And basically with that, as much as it provides that, it also provides other challenges. And those are the challenges that we want to be able to bring forth in this discussion that we are having. So I think they have sorted out the issue, so we can go to the next slide. Yes, so as a part of just introducing the topic, so when we're talking about open banking, what is open banking? So I am sure most of us know about it, but for the ones who do not know about it, open banking is just basically an innovative solution whereby financial data is shared. Financial data that predominantly is with traditional banks is shared with authorized third parties through secure APIs. And what APIs, I believe we know, application programming interfaces. So that is basically what is shared between the bank and authorized third parties. And we speak also on data privacy. So as we've said, in open banking, what is shared is financial data, specifically for customers or consumers. So this is sensitive, but the consumer has to have control. They have to know what is actually being shared. What do you share with these third parties? And do they have control of what is shared? Because if they do not have and there's no data privacy, then you can have things like identity theft and fraud. So that's why data privacy is important. In terms of security, we also have the aspect of unauthorized access of the data. This is sensitive data. So if somebody actually accesses the data and breaches and also just tampers with that data, then it offers also a potential mistrust in the ecosystem. And it actually can pull down the ecosystem. So if there's no trust in the ecosystem, in the entire ecosystem of open banking because it's financial, then also the entire financial industry can be compromised. So basically that is how we link the open banking and we link it with the data privacy and security. So what we'll discuss today is basically on those 7 items. So the benefits of open banking, the ecosystem for us to be able to understand, and data privacy in open banking, security challenges, solutions for data privacy and security, the role of regulations in that, and also we look at a case study and how that case study has looked at the best practices. So yes, we can be able to proceed. Thank you. So what are the benefits of open banking? I think one of the things I've given you is on the business side for what, even as Credit Bank, what we wanted to do and where we are looking at in terms of tapping into the market and achieving our objectives. So one of the other things is that enhanced customer choice. So in terms of choice, once you have the open banking, we say that you're actually tapping into third parties. So you're third parties, this can be fintechs and all of the other people. So if you can be able to leverage also on their offerings, what you actually give the customer is choice. So if we have done aggregations of accounts, so let's say if I go to, there's a fintech who has been given, and has gone to an open API platform for several banks. They have been given that. What happens is that they can develop an app, and if they develop that app, they can actually tap into all the accounts that they have. They can see maybe I have a balance in maybe bank A or bank B or bank C. I want to be able to pull funds from there and push it to this other side. So it gives you enhanced choice in terms of who do you choose in terms of the competition that is there as well. Improved financial services. So in terms of financial services, we've realized that also open banking actually gives you that in terms of even embedded finance, in terms of what you can be able to get. So I can give you an example of somebody who has actually implemented, in Kenya, somebody who has implemented open banking very well. We have Equity, we have Safaricom. You'll be able to see if you can be able to tap into those APIs, open APIs, you can actually embed the mobile payments in your solution. And once you implement the mobile payments in your solution, you can find an insurance underwriter having an app that you can be able to pay from your account in any of those banks. Even from Credit Bank, you can be able to pay from that if you tap into that open API. So the other aspect is fostering innovation. So how do you foster innovation in terms of that? So let's say a fintech has an application similar to maybe we have been discussing e-commerce. So we have the e-commerce aspect. So in terms of e-commerce, how can you be able to do it in such a way that you create a marketplace? So let's say I'm a fintech and I want to create a marketplace for my customers. So I do a shop inside, and inside that shop, I can tap into a bank which has an open API for maybe mobile payments. That is B2C, bank to customer. So with that, I can take that open API. The other aspect is, let's say through that, I have an open API from maybe Visa, or I have an open API from MasterCard that is actually being also pushed by this bank. So I can tap into that. And in the marketplace, provided I go to that store, then I can be able to plug in and say, okay, I need this, this product. If I have this product, then I can be able to select it and select how I will pay. Or I can pay with it. I can either pay via mobile money, I can pay via card, or in Kenya, we also have the PesaLink aspect, which also is available as an open API on our platform. And you can also select that you pay directly from your account. So what does that do? It gives you a way that you can also promote that innovation, whereby somebody actually just innovates and creates a marketplace, but leveraging on the APIs that you get from various financial institutions. Cost efficiency. So with cost efficiency, we have areas with open APIs which can be able to do in terms of data sharing, because it's about data sharing. So let's say as a bank, you already have the data of this customer, you have already done you've done the due diligence, and the only thing that now you're sharing is the data of the customer that you've already onboarded. What does this do to the other third party? It will actually reduce the cost of onboarding. So the due diligence aspect that you needed to do in terms of filling the form and going and confirming all of those things, it has already been done, and it has been done by a regulated entity, rather than you or the fintech or the third party actually doing it. So that reduces cost of onboarding and various other aspects that are there as well. Convenience, it creates convenience. So in terms of you tapping into the open API platform. So in terms of the innovations and the issues that you actually get, so I can be able to do embedded insurance. I can be able to do embedded finance. I can pay for my cab instead of going maybe to withdraw cash and actually pay via cash. I can actually pay it from an app. And this app does not necessarily have to be from a bank. It can be also from any service provider, any tax app that is actually tapping into that. So that is one of the things that it's doing, and also ensuring that there's accessibility and inclusivity. Open banking provides the opportunity to be able to even do cross-border payments and actually facilitate the same. So the third parties might be within and outside of the country. So provided you can be able to tap into the same, you're able to transact, and you're able to share the data and the financial data of the customer. You can go to the other. Yes, the ecosystem. So what do we mean by the ecosystem? What is the ecosystem of open banking? Open banking is made up of three. So we have the key players, who are the banks, the third-party providers, and we have the consumers. The banks, because their financial data that they're sharing, so they are the ones who are actually sharing this data to the third parties, the authorized third parties. We have the third parties, the ones who are consuming this data, the ones who are working on it and actually are getting, developing solutions on the same. And also, this can be also, it can be also both northbound and southbound APIs. So it can be data that is actually being given to the bank, and it can also be data that is actually being shared from the bank. We have the consumers. The consumers are the ones who are actually benefiting. They're benefiting from the data that is being shared between the two through the APIs. We have the foundations. The foundation, the technical foundation of open banking is actually the APIs, the application programming interface. So that is what actually transmits the data and is what is actually being used to be able to give you the solution that you need. And then we have the regulation. So we have open banking regulations, and some also are coming. We have we have South Africa, which has also, we have Nigeria, which also published the open API in Africa. We have the PSD2, which is one of the ones that most of the open open banking regulations borrow from. So this is just the Payment Service Directive and version 2, which mandates financial institutions to share data So that is PSD2, but there's also another regulation that has come, PSD3, which is about just monitoring the financial institutions and the third parties who are actually dealing in the open banking ecosystem. So that is the ecosystem. We can move to the next one. Yes. So basically with that we've understood, or we have understood to a certain extent, what open banking is, and we've understood who are the players in the eco banking system, in the open banking system, and we've also understood at a high level what the benefits are. So now what we want to do is look at the data privacy in open banking, because that's one of the key challenges that we are having and we need to address. So one of the things is data consent and control. As we said, is that data is being shared. This data, it belongs to the consumer, but it's being shared. So one of the things is that the consumer who is going to be able, whose data is being shared, needs to clearly understand what data is being shared. And also they need to be able to understand why it is being shared. And then on top of that, they need to explicitly give their consent. So that is what we're talking about in terms of that. They need to know what is being shared, why it is being shared. After that, they need to be able to give the consent for their data to be shared with the third parties. So that is one of the things that actually has to happen in open banking, and that's what one of the things that the regulations also try to address. And then we have the data privacy regulations. So we've had in recent times, also in East Africa, that we have in Tanzania, I believe we have the Personal Data Protection Act of 2022, and the regulations, I think, were published. For Kenya, we have the Data Protection Act of 2019, and also that was published. So those are some of the regulations that are coming, and they have some principles around it. So those are the principles that also drive what has to be in the open banking platform as well, and the ecosystem as well. What are the principles? They are around 7 to 8, but basically it's about transparency, it's about data minimization. Data minimization, what do we need? You only share what is needed for the purpose. We have the storage limitation, we have security aspects in terms of that. So all of those things have to be, when you're actually designing an open banking platform, those are the things that you need to be able to adhere to in terms of data privacy. And the other thing that we're looking at is the challenges in data privacy. So what are the challenges in data privacy? The challenges in data privacy is what I've said. One of the things is that, first, you are sharing data with third parties. So what has been happening is banks have been, for the longest time, banks are the ones who have been holding this data. Banks are regulated. Banks know how to handle this data. They have been doing it for years. So, and there have been also reviews for the same. But what kind of control will there be with third parties? They cannot be able to go beyond their walls. So one of the things is also to ensure that also the third parties maintain the same level of security that is needed, that is being implemented in the bank. So I think that one of the things that has been that in terms of maintaining the levels of security. The other aspect that has been there in terms of data privacy has also been in terms of implementing some of these regulations and understanding the regulations as well. So if you're not able to understand, or the institutions are not able to understand, yes, you'll implement it. But the problem is that you'll find that you'll have data breaches in terms of that. Identity theft will be there, and what will happen is that there will be fraudulent transactions. So those are actually the challenges on a high level in data privacy and in open banking. We can move to the next one. So we move to security. So in terms of security, we have authorization and authentication. Sorry. So in terms of authorization, what do we mean by authorization? Authorization means just, sorry. So authorization just means the aspect of, wait, let me start with authentication. So authentication, what do we mean by authentication? Is confirming the identity of the person who is actually going to use that data. So one of the things that has to be there is that we need to be able to look and authenticate and confirm comprehensively that the person who is actually claiming to be the person they are, you can be able to confirm it. So in that aspect, that's also a challenge. You need to be able to put mechanisms whereby you can be able to ideally perfectly authenticate the person. The other aspect is authorization. So in terms of authorization, you have authenticated the person, but they cannot be able to access all the, maybe we are giving them maybe a mobile payment API. So they need to be able to only access the mobile payment API. But they should not be able to maybe access maybe an ID check. That's a national ID check, because that's not the one that they've been authorized to be able to access. They should not be able to do maybe access an e-commerce API. So that is what we mean by authorization. The other aspect is cybersecurity threats. So what do you mean by cybersecurity threats? Because these are actually APIs, you need to be able to put mechanisms whereby you actually avoid somebody doing maybe injections. We are just inserting malicious scripts into the application itself and the solution. So there are also cybersecurity threats. There's phishing also, which can also be part of also the open banking solution as well. Okay. And then the other aspect is secure communication. So as we said, is that you are transmitting data. So data is sitting at one place and you're transmitting the data. So there is need to be able to secure that data wherever it sits. So one of the things is that you need to be able to encrypt that data, whether in transit or at rest. So when it's at rest, it's encrypted. When it's in transit, it's also encrypted. So that is also one of the things that needs to be done. And then there's also regulatory compliance. So regulatory compliance is basically all with the regulations that are in place. In terms of data protection acts and the regulations, you need to be able to comply with that. In terms of if there is open banking regulations, there is need to be able to comply to that. So the complexities of that also brings the aspect of it being a challenge. You need to be able to invest in terms of implementing those regulations. So, and some of them, solutions to the challenges. I've mentioned some of the solutions when I was speaking about the challenges, but we can still continue. So in terms of multi-factor authentication, this is a challenge of authentication that I had said. So the best aspect is providing multi-factor authentication, which is a recommendation by PSD2 of the same. So you can do the multi-factor authentication, or you can also have biometrics that is also, you can be able to implement that as well. And then in terms of the security threats, you can also have the continuous monitoring and threat detection. So continuously monitoring using an AI solution or an ML solutions to be able to look at the behavioral aspects of the solution, to be able to see if there's any anomaly of the same, which can be able to highlight some of these things. Because what usually happens with the open banking platform, what you're doing is you're partnering with fintechs and big tech companies. And you will find that even the sheer volume of transactions and the value is usually quite substantial. So you need to be able to have a very robust fraud detection solution. And AI and AML usually try to minimize the human effort that will be there. The other aspect is encryption. Encryption we've talked about in terms of secure communication. Secure communication, so as we said, having the data encrypted in transit and at rest. Also, what we've seen is consent management platform. So consent management platforms also is really key, and we've seen that actually it's becoming more of a need than maybe, let's say, a value add that you can do away with as an option. So this actually just is a platform whereby a customer can be able to know which data they have shared, which data they have consented to, and what it's being used for. And they can actually also revoke the consent of their data being shared. And then we also have regulatory compliance. So as much as regulation actually poses a challenge, you need to be able to collaborate with the regulator. So we've said, and I think it has been mentioned, sometimes regulation is way behind the innovation. But what we've realized is that the only way you can be able to bring them is by actually collaborating with them. So before you're able to maybe do the solution, or when you're doing the solution, involve them in the planning, involve them in the risks that they will be able to foresee. Tell them how you've actually addressed some of those issues and those challenges. And we've seen that that actually usually helps by the time that they can use you even for the regulation and everything. So that is one of the other solutions that we've is proposed as a best practice. Yes, and we go to the role of regulation. So we've seen the regulation that has happened, as I've mentioned, in Tanzania with the Personal Data Protection Act, and also in Kenya, and as well as other regions. We've been able to see that they have also given their the regulations in terms of that. So it makes sure that the consumer is protected in terms of even their consent, and they have control of their data. It also creates trust and credibility in the entire ecosystem in terms of sharing the data. Because if everyone knows that there is a regulator and there's a regulation in terms of what is being done, then there's definitely trust that will be there, and credibility also will be enhanced. And finally, standardization. So everyone will have to play with the same rules. So it's not like one person is playing in different rules and everything. So everyone plays in the same rules, and that is what regulation does. So if, like in Tanzania, that is the regulation, everyone will have to implement the same level. We won't have somebody who has implemented something that is different from the other. So that is one of the things that also regulation does. And just finally, in terms of the case studies and best practices, what we've highlighted is what we also as Credit Bank tried to implement with our open banking platform. So we have our open banking platform called Credit Bank Connect Open API Gateway. And what we did is the best practices that we did there was on transparency. So it is fully transparent. You're able to see what you're getting, how you're getting it, and you can be able to review the documents before you sign up. Before you sign up, and you'll be able to see the data that actually will be shared. And afterwards, you can be able to give the consent and everything. Then we have encryption. As I said, we have encryption in transit and at rest. There's a multi-factor authentication when you're signing up. What we've implemented also is being able to showcase the solution to also our staff. And this is not only to the IT staff or to the digital staff or the ones who are actually dealing with partners. It's for everyone who is actually in the bank, so that they can be able to know how the solution sits, both from the business side and also from the infrastructure side and the operational side, so that at least they're also aware of the same, and also in the terms of the security as well. Also implementing an incident report plan in terms of when something goes wrong, and maybe there are two aspects. There might be an incident in terms of the structure itself, or there might be a vulnerability of the open banking platform outside So putting a report plan whereby somebody outside can be able to report and somebody inside can also be able to report. And how then do you address that issue? Data minimization, what do we mean? We only share what is needed for that purpose. So we won't share the entire data of the customer from when they were born to when they open the account and all of those things. We only share what is needed for the transaction. And that is also as part of the principles of the Data Protection Act regulations. And then also collaboration and information sharing with third parties and also with the regulators. As I had mentioned, is that it's an ecosystem that has various partners. It has the regulators, it has the consumers, it has the third parties and everything. But in terms of the solution itself, there needs to be constant collaboration and information sharing with third parties and especially the regulator. And that is one of the things that also we've implemented in this. Yes. So, yeah, I think with that, I've finished my, I hope I'm on time. Yes, I think I'm on time. So, thank you. I hope I wasn't too fast for you, but at least you got a high level of what I prepared for you. Thank you.
Hi, yes, now it works. My name is Stella. I've been living in Kenya for 1.5 years. Before I've been living in Southeast Asia and Europe. I'm originally from Europe, and open banking is definitely not something new for me. Because even in 2016, we've been already in scorecard in Fintech, having some variables like how much customers are spending on their gasoline in order to increase the prediction of scorecards. And in Europe, let's say banks, in general, they're pretty happy or pretty okay to share some data with everyone. So what is the attitude here in region of the banks in order to share the data? As we know that in an informative world, now the data is a golden mine of everyone, right? Please.
Thank you. We had another question here. Can we have the logistics people, please? Another question here.
Thank you. My name is Ali Salum. I am Executive Director of OVO Technologies. We are mainly focusing on software development. As we are approaching Fintech, as a business, we are so scared of the area of security. I would like you to give us a vivid example in your organization where you have been hit by an attack that shook the business, and advice to us who are coming to this field.
Thank you for a wonderful question. The third one.
Thank you so much. Yeah, in the first place, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Professor Duncan Henry Sisia. I'm the Managing Director and Executive Officer of World Poverty Eradication Foundation. I've been actually very much thrilled in regard to the way you have presented yourself. It has actually been presented brilliantly. And my question is, in regard to this new technology of open banking here in Africa, to how many countries so far have actually achieved this open banking technology? Thank you so much.
Because that will be a very short answer, we can have room for one more question.
Thank you. My question is to incident report planning. As for advantage of financial stability on cybersecurity attacks, as colleague asked, have you a point to share with your competitors so as if you have an attack for them to escape that attack, to maintain the financial stability of the region or the country? Thank you.
Okay, I think we can start by answering those 4 quick questions. If we have more time before the panel, we can have a few more questions. Welcome, Mr. Daniel.
Thank you. So I think with the last question, you were looking at in terms of attacks. Yeah, I think it's similar to the I think the other gentleman who had asked on the same. So I'll start with the first question in terms of the attitude of the players in terms of sharing the data, especially in this region. So yes, it's been slow in terms of the data sharing, but what is coming out is on the benefits. So what we're trying to do, even for the banks, is to be able to show the need and also the business, the benefits that actually will come in terms of sharing the data. Good thing that has happened is that regulation has come to protect. So there is better trust and there is an acceptance that there is someone who's looking at it from the aspect, because it wasn't there before. So because in Europe, yes, it started way before. The regulations were there in terms of GDPR, it was there, and then came PSD2. So GDPR in terms of data privacy, and then also Payment Service Directive, that came. In this region, you find that we are at the GDPR side. We haven't reached the PSD2. We are actually at the part whereby now we are looking at how do we then protect the data, how do we minimize, how do we share the data. So it hasn't been as accelerated as it ought to be, but it's actually coming there. So you'll find players that are actually coming to that aspect. Because you'll find also, like in Kenya, we are actually 34 banks. But the banks that have an open banking platform are actually 4. And these are the banks that have said, okay, we can share this data with you, and we can authorize third parties to be able to get the same. So yes, in the coming years, at least with the regulation being there, I think it sets a good foundation for the accelerated acceptance of the data sharing. And then on the aspect of attacks and the security of it, one of the things that we've seen, even when for us who are actually implementing the solution, was the need to actually have a robust security framework. So what we have done is we have implemented some of open source solutions that are there. Some we pay for them, but a basic aspect that you do is something like rate limiting. So what do we mean by rate limiting? So one of the things is that with the open banking, I said you have the volume and you have the value. So if you can be able to put a rate limit, which will be able to ensure that maybe in a minute you're saying that you can only do like 2 transactions, 3 transactions, 50 transactions, depending on the consumer or the corporate, then it will be able to help. The other aspect is also having a mechanism that you've already secured. So we did a web access firewall. So we've also implemented a web access firewall around it, which also tries to be able to achieve some protection around our infrastructure. The other thing is that we've also implemented an event management fraud solution. So which just basically means if something has happened that is contrary to what usually is supposed to be configured, then an alert is also raised. So what I can say is that there is no specific one fraud solution fits all. You have to be able to see what you need to protect and how you need to be able to protect. As I've mentioned, we have currently for this open banking solution, we have like 5 other solutions around it just to be able to protect us from that. What we also did after implementing all of those things, the ICT had to do their own verification of the same, and after that also employing also a third party, who's this? A third party assessor who is able to come and try to attack the ecosystem and to attack that solution. So what do? They try to be able to push malicious scripts. If they're able to do it, then they give recommendations. So that is the other thing that you can be able to do, just to have a third eye on the solution in terms of security. And I think that answers the 2. The last one was on countries with open banking. So basically the ones I know of is there's Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya has also, Ethiopia also is bringing it on board with Safaricom being there. So basically those are the ones that I know who already have this innovation in place.